All right, so I got to give you guys some updates on Syria. And guess what? Israel is doing a whole bunch of Israel-like shit right now. So look at this. Israel launches dozens of airstrikes on Syria despite rebel leaders' peace pledge. Benjamin Netanyahu says he has approved expansion of settlements in the occupied Golan Heights after night of strikes. So they have nonstop. Israel has nonstop been taking more territory in Syria and bombing more places in Syria. Now, it's actually gotten comically absurd. When I was like, how is this real? When I first saw this, I was like, this has got to be like social media misinformation. But then we already have some verification from mainstream outlets here. But this is a video somebody took in Syria, the coastal city of Tartus. Israel was bombing it for hours, and they dropped this bomb that you're about to see right here. Ready? That literally looks like a nuke. It looks like they nuked Syria. I almost want to be careful and say, even though I saw some verification of this, are we sure this is real? Are we sure? Because Israel is so unhinged and so extreme. They don't even need a provocation. They don't even need an excuse. They're just like, shit, go grab the bomb that is so powerful that it will register on the Richter scale, as the reporting says this did. So that's why it's called an earthquake bomb. It was so powerful, it registered on the Richter scale. So again, as the new leader of Syria, I think even I saw some piece about how he wrote to the UN, which, by the way, it's adorable that you think like, oh, I know who will stop this, the UN. Yes, because they've been really, really potent in getting Israel to stop genociding Gaza. They're really on it. But the dude was like, hey, man, we don't want any beef with you. Can you please stop taking our territory? Can you please stop leveling our cities? Just saying. And Israel's reaction is, ha! That's a good one, dog. That's a good one. We will do what we want to do from now until the end of time. There are literally no consequences for this government. None. None. And by the way, this is what happens when the United States says, here, take more money. Here, take more weapons. The most we'll ever do is a little tut-tutting and finger-wagging at you. You better stop being the most unhinged government since Nazi Germany, sir. Okay, well, how'd that work out? Is that working? No, it's not. They're only getting worse and worse and worse, and you're sitting there like bragging about how you will always help Israel. All right, so look at this. Israel invading deeper into Syria, ordering residents out and cutting off electricity and water to pressure civilians to leave. Where have we seen this before? Where have we seen this before? Israel discovers more Judea and Samaria. That's the West Bank, but they name it that to be like, this is ours. New reports of forced displacement and land seizures. Israeli tanks have advanced into villages and towns in Syria's Quneitra governorate across from the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, damaging streets, cutting down trees, and destroying electricity poles. Israel ordered residents to evacuate their homes. When many refused, Israeli forces destroyed water supply networks and power lines in an attempt to force them out. Ethnic cleansing. Ethnic cleansing now in Syria as well. Israel has also continued to strike Syria on Saturday, with the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reporting 61 new missile attacks on military sites in a 5-hour period on Saturday evening. Now, again, I want to reiterate, I remember early on in the process of the genocide in Gaza, we started having the conversation, others started having the conversation, hey, it looks like Israel might actually be interested in creating that greater Israel, which would require them to take land from multiple other countries. That I don't know how else you can categorize this. They're already going to resettle Gaza. They're already trying to annex the entire West Bank, and Trump is going to let them because he took $100 million from Miriam Adelson. They already illegally annexed the Syrian Golan Heights. Now they're going even further on that front, and nobody's going to stop it. Nobody's going to say anything. Nobody's going to do anything. Now, at the same time, death feels imminent. I need you guys to really let this sink in. For 96% of children in Gaza, study finds. Needs assessment by NGO reveals the huge psychological impact of the war with Israel on young people. A new study of children living through the war in Gaza has found that 96% of them feel that their death is imminent and almost half want to die as a result of the trauma they have been through. A needs assessment carried out by a Gaza-based NGO sponsored by the War Child Alliance charity also found that 92% of the children in the survey were not accepting of reality. 79% suffer from nightmares, and 73% exhibit symptoms of aggression. This report lays bare that Gaza is one of the most horrifying places in the world to be a child, Helen Pattinson, chief executive of War Child UK, said. Alongside the leveling of hospitals, schools, and homes, a trail of psychological destruction has caused wounds unseen, but no less destructive on children who hold no responsibility for this war. So, in other words, look, even if you are one of the very, very few lucky enough to not have your leg blown off or your arm blown off or your mom and dad killed or whatever it is, even in those circumstances, these kids want to die. These kids think they're going to die. The psychological trauma is enough to break a fully grown, mature adult. And this is what these kids have to go through. And as all this happens, we send more money, we send more weapons, we pat Bibi Netanyahu on the back, we act like everything is hunky-dory. I mean, I've run out of ways to, for months now, I've run out of ways to describe this. I don't have the words powerful enough to put into context and perspective for you what life is like for these people and the degree and the level of atrocities that we're witnessing on a daily basis. It would be a standout day on Twitter if you didn't see a child with an arm blown off or their head blown off or a mom or dad crying, pulling their kid out of the rubble. That would be surprising. We've become numb to the most grotesque war crimes we've ever seen. I mean, they're literally, it's like if we had Twitter and they were fucking live streaming Auschwitz back during the Holocaust. And that's like what we're seeing now. And if you don't see it, it's because you don't want to see it. It's because you don't want to see it, because it's there. The survey questioned parents of caregivers of 504 children from families where at least one child is disabled, injured, or unaccompanied. The sample was split between southern and northern Gaza and was complemented by more in-depth interviews. The survey was carried out in June this year, so is likely to understate the accumulated psychological impact of Gaza's children now after more than 14 months of Israel's assault on the territory. The estimated death toll in Gaza is more than 44,000, and a recent estimate by the UN Human Rights Office found that 44% of the fatalities it was able to verify were children. Nearly half, according to the UN Human Rights Office, are children. About 90% overall are civilians, not Hamas. The new psychological survey published on Wednesday was carried out by a Gaza-based organization, the Community Training Center for Crisis Management, with backing from the Dutch Relief Alliance as well as the War Child Alliance. The psychological toll on children was severe, with high levels of stress manifested in symptoms such as fear, anxiety, sleep disturbances, nightmares, nail biting, difficulty concentrating, and social withdrawal. The report said children have witnessed the bombing of their homes and schools, experienced the loss of loved ones, and have been displaced or separated from their families while fleeing for safety. About 1.9 million Palestinians in Gaza, approximately 90% of the territory's population, have been displaced. Many, several times. Half of that number are children who have lost their home and been forced to flee their neighborhoods. More than 60% of the surveyed children reported having experienced traumatic events during the war, and some had been exposed to multiple traumatic events. An estimated 17,000 children in Gaza are unaccompanied, separated from their parents, although the study notes the real number may be much higher. What's the future like for these kids? I know what Israel wants their future to be. Israel wants their future to be in a grave. The report warns being separated from their families places these children at heightened risk of exploitation, abuse, and other serious violations of their rights. I mean, you guys can go and read the rest of this, but the horror is beyond description. It's beyond description. And now, so we got this going on in Gaza. We got total annexation of the West Bank coming soon. We have the war in Lebanon, where many have died in Lebanon as well. And now they added a front in Syria. Because, Israel is defending itself, right? They're not aggressive. They're not offensive. They don't want to do more land grabs. They are, poor little old Israel is just a victim. And they just had to kill 44% children with their bombing campaigns, which have been relentless for over a year now. They just had to. Sick, man. This is sick. This is sick. History is going to look back on this moment with absolute horror and disgust. And they're going to be right to. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.